Nice. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our Tech Talk. So we're excited to share our project from Code Day Labs. My name is Luke Nguyen, and I'll be here with Sherman Zhang. Um, and today we'll be presenting our work on implementing a new curving feature in Submitty, which is an open source grading system.
We will start by discussing the purpose of our project, the problem we aim to solve, and the goals we set out to achieve. Next, we will dive into the overall architecture and flow of the system. This will give you a clear understanding of how all the components work together. After that, we will talk about the challenges we face during the implementation process, particularly the issue with the curve functionality and how we overcame them. We will then move on to a live demo where we will walk you through the code we wrote, focusing on how we implemented the curve component and handled the challenges we encountered. Finally, we will wrap up with the key takeaways from this project.
Okay, so to start, what is Submitty? So let me just give you a background on the project. Submitty is an open source grading system designed primarily for course management, offering features like discussion forums, office hour queues, peer grading, plagiarism detection, and also automated grading. It's widely used at the Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute and even recognized at the Google Summer of Code. Typical users for Submitty could be a professor, a TA, different levels of instructors, as well as students. Also, Submitty is especially useful as a grades management system for coding classes, since many of the auto grading features that are built into the project fit especially well with the programming assignments.
The problem we set out to solve was the lack of a straightforward way to apply grading curves across entire classes. The existing method using Submitty's rainbow grade system was unintuitive for instructors to use. Our goal was to simplify this process by adding a curve feature that could be applied with just one click after assignments have been fully graded. The initial issue poster mentioned that the implementation of a curve should be done within a TA grading rubric UI instead of rainbow grades. This would make adding curves much simpler for instructors. Additionally, they wanted the curve to only be applicable once an assignment has been fully graded and made so that only one curve can be added per assignment. Last but not least, they don't want the graders to click through every student to assign the points. With these specific requirements in mind, we started to examine the code base.
Okay, so before we go into the code base itself, we needed to figure out the tech stack. So after doing a bit of digging around on the project, as well as on its GitHub and its documentation, this is what we found. So first we have PHP, which was used to handle the backend logic and database interactions. Next, we have JavaScript, which managed the front-end behavior and also did things like event handling and rendered the UI elements. Next, we have Twig, which was a templating engine very similar to HTML, which was used for content rendering. And then finally, we have PostgreSQL, which was used to store data such as like student records, course information, and assignment details.
Okay, in this high-level overview, you can see the overall architecture and flow of our implementation. Starting from the left, we have the user, typically a TA or instructor, interacting with the system through a browser. When they decide to create a curve component, their request is sent from the front end, which is primarily built using JavaScript and Twig for templating. The key JavaScript functions involved are onAdd component, add component, and ajax add component. These functions manage the creation and sending of the curve component to the backend. On the backend, the request is received by the electronic graded controller.php, which is part of the controller layer in our MVC architecture. This controller interacts with the model classes gradable.php and component.php to handle the business logic of adding the curve components. Finally, the data is managed by the database queries PHP class, which update the necessary tables in our PostgreSQL database, ensuring that the curve components is correctly stored and can be retrieved later when grading is being processed.
Okay, so problems that we ran into. So one particularly interesting challenge we faced was ensuring that the curve flag was correctly set and passed through all of the layers of the application. So we traced the data flow from the front end to the back end and the database, making sure that the flag was correctly updated and rendered in the UI. This flag affected many things from the appearance of the curve components all the way to the underlying grading behavior. So it was really important that this curve flag was consistent and reliable. So the main issue that we needed to update was that we need to make sure that each and every point of the data transfer within the project was updated with the curve. We also had to add a new column to the gradable component table within the Submitty database in order to handle the new curve flag. And so with these changes, we were successfully able to create a curve component using our newly created button after we finished fixing the problem. Okay, so next we have our code demo. Okay, so here we have our code demo. This is the VS Code interface that we have that we were all working on. So here we can see the commands such as vagrant up, and vagrant up is a command that we can use for vagrant and activating the VirtualBox virtual machines, since the entire project was hosted on a virtual machine. So once the project was hosted on the virtual machine, you could then access it on your local computer through the local host. You can see that here. Skip ahead a little bit. Oops. Okay. So here, once you have the project opened up, you have the login page. So here's where you would log in. Next, you have the courses here. So each of the courses that are listed here. You also have this sidebar. I'll go into the sample course. Scrolling down, we have, so each of these things are different assignments that we have. I'll go ahead and click into one of these assignments. We can then go to the rubric page. And so this rubric page here is where you would edit an assignment. So make changes such as like adding different points, adding extra credit, for example. And then here we have this button that we added, the new curve component, the yellow button here. I'm going to click it. We have this curve score. And this is the rubric for like kind of editing a component. So there I added 5 extra credit points. And so this is how we would set it up by adding extra credit points. That's how we would add our curve. I'm going to add a mark right here. I'm going to call it something like curve for students. I'll give it the 5 points that we set back here at the extra credit. Okay, then I'll go ahead and save the component. So now this is a new component that was added to the assignment. I'll go back out to the course itself. Scroll back down to find the same assignment right there. And I'll go to grade. So now we're going to try to grade it. Okay, so I'll click view all, and you can click any of the students. I'll go ahead and click the first one. Okay, so here we have this view that you're given. Go ahead and go to rubric. So now we can actually grade the new component. So right down here, we have the curve score. So that was the piece that we added. It has this yellow border here so that we can kind of like show that, okay, this is a curved component. It's not a normal one. Go ahead and open it up. Go ahead and give it a grade. Give it 5 points. Go ahead and save it. Okay, so now the student has been given the 5 extra curve points. And now we can click on different students. So this is me going to different students. So let's go to the next student, for example. And you can see that this curve score is staying at 5. See, so that's curve score staying at 5. Go to the next one, go to the next one. And you can all see that the curve is now 5, which shows that our like one-click functionality is working. So you don't have to click through every single student. All you gotta do is just grade any one of the students and it will give it to all. Okay. So that was our code demo. Moving on, so what we learned. So this project was a great learning experience. One of the key things that we learned as a group was like how to navigate and modify a large existing code base, understanding how the different components of Submitty interacted with each other, and just getting a grasp of the whole code base as a whole. We also improved our skills in PHP and PostgreSQL, which were all new, at least for me, at the start of the project. The process of debugging and troubleshooting issues taught me a lot about problem solving in complex software. We also gained a lot of skills with Git version control, having to work around different commits, branches, and just making sure that we have our work saved properly. And in addition to technical skills, we learned a lot about teamwork, working with each other, with our mentor and with our teammates was really valuable. And we collaborated closely, and I just really appreciate the support and work from everybody on the team.
Here's the link to the pull request we made. And thank you all for listening.